I want to also let you know that we're going to hear today from Tashidi Wako, who's from Brooklyn Park, former president of the Oromo community here in the Twin Cities, which we have the largest population of Oromo in the United States, right here in the Twin Cities. And Oromo, of course, you know, is from Ethiopia. Also, Senator Fong Her, Senator Abler, Senator Dietzich will also say some words, and Senator Eaton is here as well, just to say thank you to the senators who signed this bipartisan letter that we put together as a delegation to go out to the delegation of our federal folks, and we started to hear back from them as of yesterday already. Congresswoman Betty McCollum's office is involved in that, and we have some involvement of others in the past and going forward. But having said that, my name is John Hoffman. I'm a state senator from Champlain, Coon Rapids, and Brooklyn Park, Senate District 36. And back in 2014, Senator Fong Her and I and Senator Dietzich, and of course Representative then Abler and Senator Eaton, we were all part of seeing this peaceful vigilance that this was going on over a weekend. Peaceful protest out in front of our state capitol. And the folks that were there were bringing highlight to some human rights violations in Ethiopia. And specifically, at the time, our Secretary John Kerry was over there discussing the rich history of the prominent relationship that we have with the Ethiopian government and the United States. And there was 85 college students. Imagine this, back in 2014, 85 college students peacefully protesting human rights violations in a soccer stadium. They were all shot and killed because of that. And it dawned on me that these children, these youth that were shot and killed, were our children, our sons, our daughters, our folks that were in college. Imagine that just because you peacefully protest. And it just, to this day, it still bothers me to think that we all could go out on University Avenue and tell, you know, the MnDOT or whatever that these lights that they put up on this road are really terrible, and stand there with signs that say change these lights. And there's one thing we're not going to get is shot by a bunch of military people. And so that caused us to do this first resolution, which then at the time Congressman Emmer and Congressman Keith Ellison put together and did H.R. 14, which then opened up the doorway to getting the heightened awareness of the unrest that's happening in Ethiopia and the human rights violations. So we thought things were going to be better because in 2018, after our resolution was done and after H.R. 14, there was a great movement to get peace and justice. And in 2018, we welcomed for the first time in the state of Minnesota, the Prime Minister and his attaché, a Ethiopian jetliner landed right here in the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. We all greeted him and greeted his entourage of folks. And they talked about, yes, we are going to do peace, we are going to do justice, we are going to move forward. Well, in 2020, that didn't happen. We had to do another resolution. And Senator Dietzich, who is here with me and was part of that, Senator Her, Senator Eaton, Senator Abler, we did another resolution that clearly spelled out, again, human rights violations that are happening in Ethiopia. And why are we here today is because one of my friends, one of our Minnesota residents, Jawar Mohammed, is now in a prison without any due process rights. Due process rights, something we take for granted in Minnesota, while his wife, a Minnesota citizen, and their son, who, by the way, I was just looking at a picture, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan has a picture with little Oromo a couple of years ago. He is now 5 years old. Somebody who goes to school in Minnesota, somebody who is in Minnesota, somebody is Minnesota. And I think it's time Dad comes home. I think it's time he comes home, and that we have a whole bunch of things we're asking for, and there is a letter, you all probably got a copy of this, that we sent to our members of Congress, and I'll just quickly highlight those, and then I will bring in Tashidi Wako to give us a little bit of thoughts, and then we'll turn it over to Senator Fong-Her, Senator Abler, and Senator Dietzig. But following the unrest in Ethiopia after the assassination of Oromo singer and activist Bekele Gerba in June of 2020, there were thousands of Oromos that were arrested, including our Minnesota resident Jawar Mohammed and other Oromo opposition leaders. The Ethiopian government is now preparing to hold elections in June. However, the Oromo political parties are not allowed to participate in the elections and are also facing harassment from the Ethiopian government. What we want is free and fair election, and that requires that opposition parties to freely participate for citizens to safely vote. But here's the thing. Jawar Mohammed, along with others, are on the 24th day now of a hunger strike in a Kaliti prison. And they assert that they started this hunger strike because of the worsening political condition and the derailed transition to democracy. And so there's a list of things that we're asking is that the U.S. Embassy in Ethiopia do a wellness visit of Jawar Mohammed and other political prisoners, ensuring that they receive adequate medical attention, that we publicly call for humanitarian attention to the situation, and that these leaders are being denied medical care. And we call for Secretary of State Anthony Blinken to urge Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to address the prisoners' demands. We need to also call for the Ethiopian government to free these political prisoners because they are there without due process rights, something we value in Minnesota. Minnesota values that. We demand a credible and independent, transparent investigation of the murder of Bekele Gerba and those human rights abuses that are still happening in Oromo. And those individuals need to be held responsible for the gross human rights violations that are happening in Ethiopia through the appropriate mechanisms, including targeting sanctions pursuant to the Global Magistrate Human Rights Accountability Act. In a nutshell, I could go on, but we want Jawar to come back home to Minnesota. The dad is missing, the husband is missing. And with that, I bring you to Tashidi Wako.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator. It's really a great honor and privilege to be amongst you again. We, the Oromo people, again after 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, we thought there was hope in 2018. And we really, truly appreciate the Minnesota legislature and the senators and representatives who are here today. You have been with Oromo people all along, and you have heard us. You have done your part. We really, on behalf of Oromo community, as a former president, I really appreciate you again back into this journey. Yes, Senator, as you mentioned, in 2018, the hope was in the horizon, and this young prime minister came to power with full of hope. And he landed here in Minnesota. And you have been, Senator John, Senator Fang, you have been there, welcoming him at the airport with us. And I was, after about 25 years out of the country, I was able to visit Ethiopia for the first time with about 60 delegates from all over the United States. But that hope, the hope we have had, vanished quickly. And this prime minister is from inside. He is a trained intelligence officer who have come from the system inside. And he went back to that system to prolong his grip to power. And we have seen sporadic here and there assassinations, killings, disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and arresting people here and there in end of 2018, 19. And it's further increased by killings and not having really a due process, like you said. So in June of 2020, in daylight, Hachalu Hundessa, one of the prominent artists, one of the key human rights figure who have visited Minnesota many times, have been assassinated. What did the government do? They started to use all the mechanisms rather than finding the facts. Where the fact leads, they started to interfere in the investigation process, which makes us to believe that there is no clear investigation process that could be conducted by Ethiopian government. That's why one of our requests is that we need to have an independent investigation as to why Hachalu Hundessa is assassinated and who did it. So coming to today's particular event, why we are here today, one of our residents, Jawar Mohammed, who is a graduate of Columbia University in journalism, who has created a media network, one of the prominent media network all over the world that Oromo people rely on to get information, Oromia Media Network. He's a founder of that. At the invitation of the Prime Minister here at Target Center, he went back home, hoping that there is a democratic process, hoping that there is a bright day for Ethiopians all across. And all he has been preaching is equity, fairness, and a fair and free election for Ethiopians to stop killings and to map out a clear, peaceful pathway toward harmony and living together. And just on the same day that Hachalu Hundessa was assassinated, he was arrested and put in jail. And today, Jawar Mohammed is on hunger strike. Map out a clear. He is on the 24th day of hunger strike. You may wonder why. Jawar Mohammed, since June 2020, when he got arrested, he has expected that there is a due process. But we have seen the government using all judicial system, the court system, the police system, the investigation system as a weapon to humiliate Jawar Mohammed, other political prisoners, and their family members to the level of starving them, closing their bank accounts without being guilty. And Jawar has appealed many times, and Bekele Gerba appealed many times. All political prisoners appealed many times, and they have seen nothing coming out. That's why they started a hunger strike. And today is the 24th day. So what do we want is, we want the US government, our federal congressional delegates, to make all pressure possible for them to get immediate medical attention. Our priority right now is their life and safety. And we are in fear. The community here is in fear that something will happen to their life unless there is an intervention. And that is possible. And we appeal to you, the elected officials, to call the Secretary of State to make a possible effort to save the life of Jawar Mohammed. He has a family here. He has a son here. He is not deserved to have such kind of abuse in Ethiopian jail. Thank you so much for all that you do, and we continue to appeal and to make an effort to save their lives.
Thank you, Tashidi. I would like to have Senator Fong He say a few words, and then we'll go to Senator Abler after that, and then Senator Dietzick. Senator Fong.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Hoffman. This is State Senator Fong He. I represent Eastside St. Paul, one of the home base for Oromo Americans. And I know Mr. Jawar Mohammed for more than 8 years now. I see him as a leader, activist, and someone who cares about his community. It would be correct for me to say that he's a friend among the handful of Oromo leaders that I know in the state of Minnesota. He brought our diversity closer together. He brought our ethnic minority in the state of Minnesota closer together through his Oromo media network. I met him so many times in various places, including ethics, New Year celebrations, soccer games, and so forth. That shows that our friendship has go further. And even in 2018, he included me and Senator Hoffman and other delegation to throw a red carpet welcome to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. He's a leader that cares about Minnesota, as well as Oromo and Ethiopian alike. And there's a reason that he is on a hunger strike, in prison now. And we, along with his family, with the Oromo community, are concerned for his well-being. Because he's one of our own, one of our very own, a citizen of the United States and resident of Minnesota. So I called for the Embassy of Ethiopia, Ambassador Michael Rayner, to look at his well-being and other prisoner and to bring him back home safe. I also call for the chair of our Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Robert Menendez, along with our 2 Minnesota U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar and U.S. Senator Tina Smith. And thank you for Betty McCollum for pressing Secretary of State Anthony Blinker to look at this issue. And also call as well our Congresswoman in Minneapolis, Ilhan Omar, to look at this issue as well. And thank you for giving me time to speak on my behalf in making sure that Jawar Mohammed return home safely to be reunited with his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Fong He. And it seems just like yesterday, you and I, we got lost on the tarmac, and we were driving the car around not knowing where we were going, and we were quickly escorted to where we need to be. And it was a monumental day to be able to welcome the entourage of people from Ethiopia that were part of the government, and for them to promise you and myself and others that there was going to be peace and justice. And so thank you for your kind words. And with that, Senator Jim Abler, thank you for being with us today as well.
Well, and thank you, Senator Hoffman and the others. I'm just here to lend my voice to this, really, the tragedy of human rights issues across the world, but now this specific one. And, you know, I lend my voice to make sure people know there's nothing partisan about this. This is about humanity and what Minnesota stands for and what America stands for. And President Biden campaigned, or candidate Biden campaigned on uniting the country and finding areas that we could work together on. This is one of those areas. What a great time to start his administration by reaching into Ethiopia and talking about human rights as something that's number one on our list of things that are the most important in the influence that we can put onto this world. There's a great history, at least at times, where we have risen to the occasion. There are some other times that we have not. This is the time, please, President Biden and Secretary Blinken, please put this on top of your list for the welfare of this dad, but for the welfare of so many individuals who are courageously standing up for what they believe and in treating us as human beings with unalienable rights. So I'm happy to lend my voice to it and bring Dad home.
Bring Dad home. Amen. Bring Dad home.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kiri Dietzig, and I have the honor and privilege to represent Senate District 60, which is southeast and northeast Minneapolis. I have the across the river and then have the Cedar Riverside community. I have a lot of the East Africans in my district, so have gotten to know several people in the Oromo community over the years. And a lot of people may wonder, why as a Minnesota state senator should I care about this? Why does this matter? And my grandparents were immigrants from Poland, and so I understand some of that that tie. Being one generation removed, I didn't understand it, but I grew up with my grandparents, my grandma, and my dad's brothers and sisters speaking Polish in their home. So I understood, going into. I didn't speak Polish, but we spoke Polish in the home. I am in northeast Minneapolis. That was not a uncommon occurrence. You'd go to some of my friends' home and they'd be speaking Italian, they'd be speaking Ukrainian, they'd be speaking Russian, or they'd be speaking Polish. Occasionally some Norwegian or Swedish in there. And so we kind of grew up with that. And so while I am not an immigrant and my parents were not immigrants, I understand the tension that they had on being Americans and the, valuing American and being here in the present, and also those ties to that home community and that ties to keeping those traditions alive. We still have borscht on Easter and we still have certain traditions, and so I understand that. And so in, talking to the Oromo community, I understand their connection still with that community. And then getting to know them, and the Oromo community has been here, as Mr. Wacko said, he's been here 25 years. They are part of our fabric of Minnesota. They have been here for a while. And it is how do we help bring back this Minnesota person? He is a journalist, like many journalists that are covering different places and different conflicts around the world, and we want to bring him home. He is a Minnesota resident that we need to bring home. This past summer, it was probably 100 degrees. John, Senator Hoffman, and I, and Mr. Wacko and Dr. Opsa were, working on a resolution, again, bringing this out after meeting with several mothers who were in tears and in terror because they still have family members back in Ethiopia, and they were terrified. They were terrified of the violence that was going on and the violence against the Oromo community. And so we, did a resolution and a letter there asking for help, and then unfortunately we have to continue asking for help. I'd like to thank Congressman Betty McCollum for stepping up, because this is an important issue. These are Minnesotans. These are Minnesotans that are impacted. This is a human rights issue, and we need to bring Mr. Mohammed home. So I want to thank Congressman McCullough and urge the rest of our delegation to look at this, urge the Secretary of State to literally look at this, because these are human rights violations, and it matters to us because this is a Minnesotan resident who needs to come home here and be with his family. So we urge them to please help bring him home. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dietzig, and you reiterated what Senator Abler said. It's time for Dad to come home. I don't think there's anything else we can say except this is a Minnesota. That is a one Minnesota, and one of our own Minnesotans is not here. It's time to bring him home. And so with that, I want to thank everybody. Senator Eaton, thank you so much for your steadfast support in what we're doing and being just an absolute a gem in this. Senator Abler, for your steadfast support. Senator Fong He, you as well. Just amazing to have you, my colleagues, to be in this discussion and this fight together. And Senator Dietzig, yes, we didn't think we would have to do another resolution, but we did. And now can we at least get folks out in the public to get a hold of your elected officials and say, bring this dad home, stop the human rights violations. Thank you, everybody, for being part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you always do that, as a drummer, you look when you're done doing the thing and you go, what was that?
So Al Jazeera said he's got some kidney issues.
That was good.